Hello guys, welcome to my review for Extraction. This is a new 2020 Netflix film starring Chris Hemsworth. I was expecting to be sort of a run-of-the-mill sort of action movie, sort of like last year's, I think it was called Triple Frontier or something. I was expecting something like that, like a solid, good, action, thrillery sort of adventure. It's about a guy who is to go rescue a child who is the son of a drug lord, and I'm assuming that's not an interesting thing. Chris Hemsworth loses his child. He has to take care of this child, and there's a bit of comparison there with the characters, and that's about the extent of the characterization in this movie. And I would have liked a little more. Chris Hemsworth though did give a good performance, and the child actor did a very good job. I thought he was really good, and both these two created a good, a good pairing. You could tell Chris Hemsworth did care about this kid, and this kid did care about him, and they sort of learned to have a bond. But I would have liked just a little more between these two characters, because a lot of the characterization is very generic. In terms of a plot, narrative, character perspective, this is a very, very generic film, and doesn't really do anything new or special, besides some pretty impressive sequences, and it is pretty well shot, which I'll talk about that later. But let's talk about the characters first, because these two characters I think developed well, but overall I just needed more from them. I needed more insight into who these people were, their mindsets, and the film just wasn't long enough to just have that. It does have the smaller moments there in between the action moments, and they are paced well. But there need to be more throughout the action sequences, or the action sequences then have no weight. And a lot of the action sequences did have weight here, but not character-wise. Plot-wise, they were pretty much always increasing, but I just felt the need for potential in this movie, the potential to grow these characters, because this felt like a movie that, while I was watching it, I wasn't expecting it, but I was watching it thinking, this could be great, like, this could be incredible, and it just wasn't. It didn't hit that mark for me, but it was still a lot better than I was expecting. Let's talk about some of the action in this movie. A lot of the action is pretty solid and pretty great and gruesome and awesome and well choreographed, because it is directed by a stunt worker. This is the first film he's done, and usually I'll be very skeptical of that. Usually it would just be like, well, extremely well choreographed stunts and not too much story, character, not too much going on. The action probably will be lazily filmed, but the action here is wonderfully well filmed and wonderfully directed. The film is very well shot. The plot is able to carry on. The characters have sufficient enough development to carry their characters along with the plot and to make you care about certain things later on, and it does a decent job there and then. The antagonists of the film are very, very poor, but I think the protagonists do their job well. But a lot of it is very conventional, and that's fine, because I think the way this film's directed actually surprised me. There's an incredible long take sequence, which I heard there was a long take sequence, but I wasn't expecting to be this long. I was expecting like 4 or 5 minutes. This is like a 10-20 minute sequence, maybe even longer than 20 minutes, that involves a car chase, a knife fight, a motorcycle chase, a truck chase with helicopters, a bit of parkour, a massive shootout in a building, a chase sequence in a building, a really long car chase, and then after that, explosions, buildings. It just has everything in this 20-minute sequence you want in an action movie, and it was very impressive. I mean, really impressive. There was one moment where it looked like Chris Hemsworth actually hit the camera and it like joggled a bit. I really loved that moment. But man, that was an impressive sequence. It was white knuckled. The tension was well, and also this film is extremely well shot. I love the color usage and the oranges of the city. It looked really grimy and gritty, and I loved it. And the action wasn't too brutal, where it's like, look at this gore. It was realistic enough. There's things set up in the first act. The first act was probably the weakest. I didn't really care, but as soon as that sequence panned out, it was incredible, and this movie went at a breakneck fast pace. It never really stopped, which I appreciated, and when it did stop, it allowed for some character moments. But I would have liked the first act to be a lot stronger. The first act needed a lot more development for the characters, a lot more. We need to learn about the story, because this kid's got a drug lord as a father. I would have liked to learn just a bit more about what that was like. That's really interesting for this character, and they don't really explore it besides some lines of dialogue. But what they do with him and Chris Hemsworth's character throughout the film I thought was good. There's a scene with a bridge on the end, which is a pretty epic action sequence, but we just had earlier on in the film like an extremely long take action sequence, and then you have this one action sequence on a bridge that when I was watching I was like, this is nowhere near as good as an action scene. So all the action scenes after that incredible action sequence, I was like, well, if you could do that in one take, you could do this in one take, and it'll be much better. I wish they maybe kept the consistency there. And that's where I saw the potential for greatness. It's like, okay, we have this great scene, we have this great idea, let's use it once. No, use it more. Use as many times as you can throughout the film. I mean, you have this long ass-take action sequence. Use it for your finale as well. The finale had some heart to it and some motion with Chris Hemsworth's character, and I really liked the ending shot. That was cool. I did not expect that coming. But overall, I thought the movie was good. I thought it was a solid action thriller. It did its job. It thrilled me. It engaged me. It did what it needed to do. I thought Chris Hemsworth was a good performer in this film. I thought he did a really good job. And the directing, even though it's directed by a stuntman, I think he did a really good job directing this movie. It looks gorgeous. The action sequences are really well done. They were in wides. It reminded me of John Wick action sequences, the way they were choreographed, but they weren't too choreographed to make me feel like this wouldn't be real. There's enough moments in between. It's a really nail-biting chase movie that doesn't really stop. I liked Extraction. I thought it was very good, and I think it's worth checking out on Netflix. I think it did its job well, and it was a little better than I was expecting. I'm going to give Extraction a B. I'm also going to give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. I think this movie is worth checking out, especially if you're a fan of great action sequences. And yeah, it's worth checking out on Netflix. Guys, comment down below your opinions on Extraction if you have seen it. And of course, thanks for watching, and goodbye.